Them culture LSD mind control experiments from the 1950s. What's the most fricked up thing the US government has done? Well, this probably isn't the worst thing America has done, since it didn't happen, but Operation Northwoods. This was a proposed false flag attack on US soil that would justify going to war with Cuba. It was rejected by Kennedy, but approved by every man before him. It's stuff like this that makes the whole 9/11 inside job conspiracy sound a little less wacky, because this was essentially the same thing. Good thing Dick Cheney Wold never kept a decision like that from the president. Kennedy had a surprising number of those WTF guys. No, we are not doing that moments. Ruby Ridge incident. Randy Weaver sells 2 illegal sawed-off shotguns to an ATF informant. ATF notifies Randy, and when he refuses to become an informant for them, they press charges. Court date February 20th, but Randy gets a letter mistakenly saying the court date is March 20th. Randy misses the court date. ATF and FBI set up a secret operation around his house. Things go to hell when a group of marshals shoot and kill his 14-year-old son and dog when they discover the marshals camping out on the outskirts of his mountain property. They then tried to use his son's body as bait. Sniper takes a shot at Randy, who still doesn't know the FBI is there and has been given no chance to surrender. Wounded in the shoulder, Randy retreats to his cabin, where his wife is shot in the head holding a baby in her arms, while she holds the door open for him to run inside. 11 days later Randy surrenders, goes to court, cleared of all charges. So yay, it may not be the most fucked up thing, but this could have happened to any citizen, and that's just horrifying to think about. During Prohibition, government corruption was at its peak. So much so, that poisoning shipments of beer coming into the US, letting it be sold, and using the corpses as propaganda to increase support for Prohibition was outright transparent. Everyone knew that it took quite a lot of booze to kill someone, and these people were dropping dead after single drinks half the time. Didn't take too long thereafter for the 21st Amendment to pass. The massacre of El Mozote was heartbreaking. I read a monograph about it, and it is one of the only non-fiction books to make me cry. An entire village in El Salvador was killed. Women saw their children slaughtered in front of them before being murdered themselves, and I think only 1 or 2 people escaped to tell about what they saw. The attack was carried out at the suggestion of the US government to stop the spread of communism using American-supplied weapons. Reagan was an evil man, and anyone who praises him is either ignorant or evil too. Honestly, there's so many grotesquely fricked up things it's hard to pick just one. Not to mention there's so much that's classified that honestly we don't know for sure. The thread is bound to mention stuff like slavery, Tuskegee, MK Ultra, Trail of Tears, Iran-Contra, Jim Crow laws, Vietnam War, voter suppression, Operation Northwoods, the Patriot Act, pretending COVID is a hoax to short stock, bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki, executing mentally disabled criminals, and the list just goes on and on and on. How do you pick a most fucked up thing? The Diego Garcia incident in the 1968, which is also one of the worst things the UK government has done. For the UK to continue purchasing nuclear missiles from America, they asked to rent out the British island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean to use as a naval base. The UK then subsequently sent soldiers onto the island, forced all of the inhabitants off of the island, killed anybody who resisted, destroyed all homes, and killed all the animals, so US soldiers could then turn the island into a naval base. Any ex-inhabitants who tried to speak out about the incident were immediately silenced and punished, and the details of the incident were only recently made public. The island is still a joint UK/US naval base to this day. I had friends stationed there. I always wondered about it. They didn't kill anybody. They paid off Mauritius to take the residents, and people have known and protested about this since it happened. I think the CIA raping and torturing US citizens is up there. They also imported and distributed drugs to black and Mexican neighborhoods. The tests they did on people are known as MK Ultra, I'm pretty sure. The government also made an agreement with Japan to not hold them accountable for their crimes against humanity. If Japan gave the US the results of their horrible experiments, Japan raped and tortured their own citizens, but the level of cruelty was beyond imagination. surgeries done without anesthesia, weapons testing on live subjects, dipping someone's limbs into nitrogen oxide, and smashing it while they were awake. This was called Unit 731. Many presidents have ordered the military to commit crimes against humanity too. Obama ordered a drone on a hospital full of innocent people, and so many people died. If there's worse than that, I'm not sure I want to know. The 9/11 shit is conspiracy as far as I know, not something concrete. Edit. If you don't believe what I say you can look it up, but here are some sources. Nuking Nagasaki and Hiroshima. People talk about how it prevented more deaths from occurring, but we are talking about the US government killing 129,000 to 226,000 people with a bomb that does this. Hell, the bomb that destroyed Nagasaki only killed 150 soldiers, with 39,000 to 80,000 of the dead being civilians. Plus there's the deaths from cancer and other issues in the years following. The US government even censored photos from the bombings once they took over Japan because of how fucked up it was. Edit. It doesn't matter if it stopped the war. It was still pretty fucked up. No different than Hitler bombing London. Military historian here. I know without looking most of these replies are factually inaccurate. However, the worst thing that actually happened was the internment of ethnic Japanese during WWII. After Pearl Harbor, there was a lot of panic and weird incident, especially on the Pacific coast. It was known that Japanese diplomats had done a lot of the intelligence gathering with a little help. One poorly thought out decision was all residents born in Japan would be detained until it was sorted out what to do with them. It was also feared that at least some of them still had loyalties in Japan, but ironically in hindsight it would turn out literally none of them ever helped Japan. It gets worse when a few people who born in Japan but grew up in California were also detained. The worst of the detention was, since the decision was made overnight, the prisoners had to build their own POW camp. To be fair, in most cases kind neighbors watched their property while they were gone, but some were easy targets for burglars. Virtually no force was used as everyone cooperated and packed what they could carry. The camps were just really boring as it was hard to find work and the POWs spent most of their time playing cards and baseball. It caused hoopla in Washington, with some congressmen devoting years to getting them released. But it just gets weirder from there. The Japanese were permitted to volunteer to a certain infantry unit which would serve in Europe. You might expect some cynicism on part of the POWs, but in reality they were all eager to prove loyalty and were really bored. This infantry unit went to Italy and served with distinction, but ended up being mauled in a disastrous rescue action. The Japanese were all pardoned at the end of the war. Slavery hands down, and the racial discrimination that followed it for 100 plus years. I don't even think you can close to argue anything else. The capture and enslavement of millions and the suffering that endured from, even after they were freed, don't see how anything compares. I'm gonna go with not doing anything to stop the brutal lynching, rape and murder of African Americans up until the 60s. Read through this, it's genuinely fucked up. https://n.wikipedia.org/list_of_victims_and_the_united_states. One of the victims, Mary Turner, 18, African American, publicly opposed and threatened legal action against white people who had murdered her husband, unfairly accused, according to her, of killing an abusive landowner. Hung her upside down from a tree, doused her in gasoline and motor oil and set her on fire. Turner was still alive when a member of the mob split her abdomen open with a knife and her unborn child fell on the ground. The baby was stomped and crushed as it fell to the ground. Turner's body was riddled with hundreds of bullets. Did everyone forget COINTELPRO, or do you just know that it is still going on, so you're afraid to mention it? COINTELPRO was the FBI/CIA/Fed program to infiltrate and destroy any groups that were considered left on the political spectrum. It involved not only placing people in those organizations, frequently as agent provocateurs, but murder, financing militias, inside the United States mind you, and putting people in jail for life, many of whom are still there. That's the thing about COINTELPRO, for all we know, it's still going on. In fact, given the findings of some researchers on the Antifa movement, in which police put agent provocateurs into the movement to ratchet up violence, so that the police could respond violently, it absolutely is still going on. Read https://www.goodreads.com/n/book/show/421,559.cointelpro. The other thing to note is that COINTELPRO wasn't a left or right program. It ran under both liberal and conservative administrations. The things they haven't been caught for. The MK Ultra stuff they leaked was the stuff that didn't work. This right here. Most underrated comment. Sure, Agent Orange, horrific massacres, ethnic cleansing, supporting fascists and genocide, assassinations, torture, regime changes and all those things done to Native Americans are blood curling, but thing is US is really good at hiding its crimes and exposing those of others while propagating any wrongdoing of theirs which was found to blatantly obvious as missteps by individual soldiers, which of course won't get punished anyway. I can't even imagine all the scary shit we don't know about existence of happening or we know only the tip of the iceberg. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos.